Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Mikey Wine here, aka Gundamonium Works, and we are live. Hey, I'm back. Sorry I missed everybody last week. I was down with COVID and really kicked my ass back in November 2020 when I got it first time. Didn't hardly even knew I had it, really. This one was pretty rough, so I was definitely not feeling it. And anyway. So we're going to get back into this next project. And with that, let's start the show. Anyway, how you doing, Julius? Good to see you. Nice to see you in the room. This is just a one-off this week, Thursday, the one Thursday show. Normally I'll do this every Wednesday, and next week I return to Wednesdays. Like I said, yesterday was just with Valentine's Day and everything, and then just getting back to work because after being off for a week with COVID and stuff. So it was a little bit. I need more time to rest. But anyway, so last night I went out with the wife and had some nice dinner and stuff like that. So that's why we're doing it tonight. Anyway, getting started here. This is part 2 of the Queadluun Rau and Max batteroid project. And so if you look right over my shoulder here, Queadluun Rau is completely disassembled and ready for primer. So I've been working on the batteroid, the Max batteroid, and I'm discovering a few little challenges with it, with what I want to do with it. And I'm going to go over that in a bit here because I'm trying to recreate kind of a cool scene from the movie, and in order to do that, I've got to pose both figures, both models in a certain position, and I can almost do what I need to do with the Rau. Except I may have to modify the legs just to kind of spread out a little bit more because she's kind of pressed up against the ceiling. Max, on the other hand, the batteroid is going to be a little bit more complicated because, and anyway, I'll go into it right now. So let's get down to the bench here, and I'll do the close up here a little bit in just a bit. This is most of the torso. I've got the little cockpit section here that none of this is glued together. I've just kind of pressed everything kind of sorted together because the pegs and holes on these are really super tight. So I have to be careful about what I assemble and what I don't assemble. All good, Mike. Happy wife, happy life. Yep. Just what the movie saw. Madam Web, nice. How was that, by the way? Any good? I mean, I wasn't too sure about the whole Spider-Man type with a female lead role, so it might be good. We'll see. So I got the chest piece on. That's glued on. This cover piece is just kind of there. I did put some clear amber on the lights that are going to be. Not a very good movie. It was okay. Well, that's a bummer. Kind of go in with a higher expectation, or at least hoping it would be good, but it's hard to live up to some of the current films. So anyway, let's see. So I just kind of placed the backpack on here. This is all folded up. I've got the wings in. The wings do come off. I haven't glued anything in. The problem I'm having is, in order for me, and I'm going to bring up my phone here because I'm going to show you the scene. And this is what, let's go to the close view here, and I will. So, oops, wrong photo. Okay, so this is originally what I am trying to recreate, okay? The hallway is not going to be that long. It will be a little bit shorter, but you can see how Miria is kind of pressed up against the ceiling there, and Max has come in and landed, and he's drawing his gun pod basically. So I was thinking about doing this pose, but here's the problem I'm running into, and I'm going to zoom in here so you can see this. One of the funny things about this, you can see these micro missile pods here on this wing. There's actually one over here, but they forgot to color it in. It looks like it's white. They screwed up that cell. What's up, George? How you doing, man? So after looking at this and after assembling the torso, I decided, well, maybe I should do it a little bit different. So let me show you so I took another screenshot of this, which is just basically the hallway, so I can see the floor and the walls, and then you can see her kind of right up against the floor here. So then I thought about going with basically this pose. So now this is a couple of frames after the first one I just showed you. So now he's kind of aiming down range, and she's still coming off. She's just about ready to come off the ceiling there, and then go in and fight again. But so I've got those two poses in mind. The problem is this. Okay, so I gotta have the wings out, because when he lands, he still has these micro missile pods mounted on the wings. So the wings have to be out. These are 1/7/2 scale from the weapon set you can buy for a normal, Valkyrie. 1/7/2 Valkyrie, you can get these weapon sets. And so I decided, well, I should be able to use these, since this is a 1/7/2 scale. I should be able to do the same thing, mount them to the wing. It's supposed to be 2 per wing. Here's the challenge. The batteroid kits have significantly smaller wings than a standard Valkyrie. So if I was to, have a Valkyrie in jet mode, these wings would probably be 1/4 inch to maybe 3/8 of an inch longer. And so there's actually more room to mount these on the wing. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to try to move this off frame so it's a little bit more of a green background. Now, these wings do have 4 points where there would be a hard point for some kind of a weapon to be, missiles or something like that, to be mounted to the wings. The normal Valkyrie would have 5 mounting points. These only have 4, so I'm actually missing one. So if I was to go by the markings and the locations for the weapon set, they would have to be here and here, which is just way too close to the arm. So in order for me to do this, I'm going to have to mount these either in a different spot altogether, not even use these marked points. You can actually kind of, I don't know if this will focus or not, but there are 4. There we go. There's 4. You can see those 4 circles. Those are actually hard points where you would actually mount a missile or something like that. Missile set or cluster or something, or 2 of these micro missile pods. So what I'm going to have to do is go further out on the wing, put one here. I'm just going to kind of balance this up here, and then maybe one here. Oh, see, it slid right off. Let's see if I can balance it. So something like that. It's getting a little crowded. So the other problem is, in order for me, like if I close these wings, the wings are not glued together, they're just kind of pressed together. Okay. So in order to get the pose I wanted, I could have this arm with the open hand kind of holding the gun pod, and then having this is a closed hand, but the other fist for the actual holding the gun pod would be pointed kind of forward. Problem is this: once I rotate the shoulders, now the shoulders interfere with the wings opening because they roll too far back. So I have to keep the shoulders down here in order for me to have enough room to open the wings up. Well, by doing that, then I lose my reach. I don't have the same posability. So I'm really struggling with trying to figure out how I'm going to make this work. I've also been assembling continuing to assemble the legs and stuff as I go here, because those aren't going to be as difficult to figure out, because the legs will probably be fine. Works. What about using 1/100 missiles? I don't think they make a weapon set for 1/100. The smallest that I know Hasegawa makes is 172. I have 148 stuff in 172. 1/100 would be nice, but you know what? I'd have to check, because I do have a Bandai set for the Bandai one. I think it's a 1/100. Let me check. I'm going to go to the stash here. Let's see, that might actually be an option. Where is it? It's up here somewhere. Let me find it real quick here. Where is it? 148, 148. I know I have. Oh, you know what I have? I think I just have the armor. Oh, here it is. Okay. No, see, even that's 172. See, I've got this. This is the new Bandai Valkyrie, but this is also in 172. So it comes with all the weapon sets and the strike parts, all the armor, but it's still in the same scale. So even if it was 1/100, I could try to use it, but it's not going to work. So I'm going to have to do some research. Maybe they do make a 1/100 weapon set, or of a different, not necessarily Hasegawa. Maybe I can get something in Bandai or something like that and use it. But right now I'm dealing with what I've got. So like I said, I may use these hard points. I think I have a few 1/100 Super Valkyrie kits. Okay. But do they come with the missile pods and stuff? That's the thing. A lot of the like that Bandai set, that's more the strike parts. It just comes with. It's for the variable Valkyrie that the newer ones that Bandai started making, and it just comes with the armor and the weapon sets for it. So, but it's still, like I said, it's still wrong scale. If I was going to go smaller, I'm not even sure 1/100 would work. They might actually look too small in these wings, but I don't know. So I still got to assemble the gun pod in the hand so I can pop that on here and kind of see the position of it. You have missile pods. Okay. I'd be curious to see that, and then maybe I can look on Hobbylink Japan or something like that. Like I said, the other problem is that there's very little room between the wings and the shoulders to actually pose this the way I want. As soon as I open the wings up, I have literally no room. If I bring them down, I got a little bit more, but then I run out of room here. You see what I'm saying? If I change the angle, that gives me a little more shoulder width room, but then I run out of room over here. I'd have to really group these very close together. Nonsense. I guess I have. They'll send them to me. Well, okay. You're awesome. We'll talk about it. You can send me some pictures or something like that. Show me what you got or whatever. So like I said, if I close the wings a little bit, I could get the shoulders to a better position, but then I lose my range of motion here on the wings. So just something I'm trying to figure out as we go. And these just slide on and off. I haven't really put the wings together. They're just on a peg here that kind of slides into the body. Another thought I had was maybe repositioning the peg on these arms to a different angle so they will kind of move them further away from the wing. I can try that or think about doing that. That would give me then I could keep the wings fully open and still have kind of a different. Right now the pivot they actually do pivot up and down, but it would be cool if they pivoted forward. If that was the case, then I would have a lot more room. But once I put these in, you see what happens there. It's right up against the wing. Much love, brother. It's Brian. How you doing, man? It's Kodakai. He's in here. I just did my boosting the homie stream. Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate that. Mr. Kodakai in the house. So you're doing a podcast tonight. Is that your regular, like, is it your podcast or is it the I can't remember the name all of a sudden. The Built Sideways podcast. Is that the one you guys are doing? Or is it something different? Either way. Thanks for the assist, my friend. You're the man. So I'm just talking about the torso here and some of the issues I'm coming up with trying to recreate this scene. So I think I'm going to have to build the gun pod and put it in here so then I can also see where the positioning of the hand's got to be, and then I can figure out. I might just try that idea of trying to reposition these shoulders forward a little bit, giving me a little bit more room for the wings. Because if I open them entirely, completely open, then I've got enough room, I think. Like if I'm just going to hold these with my hands here, just kind of roughly separated. So then I'll have, maybe like that. I'll have enough room to mount these two to the wing. Unless we use, like you're talking about, like Julie was saying, unless I use 1/100 pods, it would be even smaller. I just hope they're not too terribly small that they might, obviously the proportions are important, but not as important as if they're just way too small, then of course it's just not going to work out. So I'm going to put this aside for the moment. I'm just going to start assembling these legs, and this is there are some pretty cool articulation points on the legs. Not something I've been used to in the past. So there's quite a few pieces that go together to assemble the thigh portion, and it looks like the ankle and the way the foot. There's some posability there too. There's also an interesting little. You can see this. This is part of the upper leg, upper thigh area, just below where the intake would go for the engines. That's going to be assembled up here, I'm pretty sure. So, but one of the things I've noticed is there's kind of like this trapezoid shape raised detail on the front here, and there's a huge seam going down the middle of these. Now I've already cleaned up the back because it's just smooth, but if I bring this up and focus on it, you might be able to see that. Let's see. Come on, there we go. Okay, you see that trapezoid shape? It's just barely raised, so it's going to be really hard to sand that seam down and without really kind of destroying that. So what I decided to do was I'll probably just completely take it off completely, but before I'm going to cut out with using some really thin strip here. This is 0.38 by 6.3 millimeters. It's bigger than what I need, but I can trim down and cut a few pieces of that trapezoid shape. Then I can just sand this completely down and just re-laminate that raised detail right on top. And that way I don't have to worry about trying to sand around it, because there's too many. By the time I get this portion in front of it down, then I've got to sand the top of it. It's going to be almost gone anyway. But like I said earlier, when we first started the stream, the Queadluun Rau is disassembled and on pegs for primer. I have not started priming that yet. So I started building the Max batteroid, and that's where we're going to go for right now. So let's get started. Time to get the magnifiers on. And get a little sip of wine. We're good to go. All right, so I started actually sanding this, and then I realized I should probably wait until I cut out a matching piece of that for that raised detail, so I have a pattern to base it off of. One of the other things I've been doing was on the bottom of this, there's a kind of a panel, almost like a panel lined edge. So I'm using these edge scribers, and this is my 0.3 and 0.6. If you guys are unfamiliar with these, I'm sure most of the people in the room are, but for the sake of the video, I will talk about these for a little bit. So on the basically what they do is there's two edges. One's 0.3 millimeter and one's 0.6. And you basically go along the edge of a piece of plastic and it'll create, sometimes you can use these for if you have a seam of two pieces of plastic that come together, or two parts, and you want to create a panel line so it looks like there's supposed to be a seam line there rather than sanding a seam line smooth like this. You can take this edge scriber along the edge of both pieces, and then when you join them together, it'll look like a panel line. But because there's a little bit of a lip here, this is good for cleaning up that edge, because once I glue these two pieces together, there's a seam right down the middle. So I'm just running that. It uses the larger flat edge as a guide, and then the machined edge of that is what actually just kind of shaves off a little bit of that plastic. And if we zoom in here, yeah, right along the bottom edge right here, you can see that little lip, and that's what I'm just trying to clean up. So now that I've done that on both sides, I can cut out that trapezoid piece and then laminate that. Down. Okay. Got a little bit of cleanup here. It's actually a pretty cool kit so far. I mean, I haven't finished. I started to build a Minmay Guard batteroid in 172, a Hasagawa kit, a while back, and that was one of those two where after I started building it, I was like, I'm just not feeling this, and I ended up putting it back in the box. But after taking this one out and starting the process again, it's assembling the same way that one does, and it's really a nice looking kit. As far as the details, I mean, I love the tops of the shoulders here. There's actually, let's see if I can get an angle. Yeah, you can kind of see there's a lot of detail on the top of those shoulders, and they actually come with a decal that's supposed to go with that. But I'll end up probably just panel lining the whole thing rather than using this decal for the tops of those shoulders. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here's the decal sheet. Yeah, and you see these two decals. Those are actually for the top of the shoulder. So I may use them, I may not. I think it would be easier just to panel line it and clear coat it. They would probably look just fine rather than trying to soften a decal with all those little raised and lowered surfaces to make it look nice. So I'm going to trim off. I'm going to use my I should probably just use my God hands here to just clip off a couple of pieces of this strip here and then shape it. I've got enough of it. I'm not too concerned about making a mistake. It cuts so easily because it's so very thin. I guess I could use my chopper as well. It's pretty good. I almost got it right. I think I need to go a little bit wider. Yeah, I'm going to use the chopper. The chopper will give me consistent cuts. Just going to move this down, reposition it here. So I'm going to cut a clean edge first. There we go. Okay. So right about there. And measure this. So this piece that I'm trying to cut out needs to be, looks like 5 millimeter. Okay. So if we go right there. That's 5mm. So then all I really have to do is just, once I cut this piece, I'm going to check it, and then all I got to do is cut the angles, and I can do that by hand. So that's perfect as far as the width. I'm going to cut a little bit off the height. The height is just under 5. It's around just about 4.5 to 5mm. So I'm going to cut a second one of these because I'm going to need 2. All right. Now this is 6.3mm, so I could just turn this sideways, kind of tuck it in there. Now I've got a square, 5x5 square. Okay, I'm going to do the same with the other one. Oops. All right. Almost lost it. There we go. Okay. Now we got two squares. Now I got to do is measure the distance here, and then I can mark it and cut my angles. So the width at the top is 3mm. So that makes it easy. I just go 1mm in on each side, make a mark, and then cut it. That should be good. Take my pencil here. All right, so if I just actually, I'm going to go over here where there's less. So if I go mark it here, mark it here. All right, now I should be able to go from the corner and go straight right there. And then do the same over here. All right, there's my trapezoid. That's pretty easy, actually. Easier than I expected, because I was thinking, the measurements were going to be a little bit harder to, like they were going to be in halves or half millimeters or something kind of complicated. But this is basically 3x5. All right, so I made my marks here, so I'm going to do the same. So 5mm, and then I go in one right there, spin it around, and do the other side. There. Oops, we'll do that. Perfect. All right, now I've got 2. Okay, so now I'm going to take off all of this. I'm using my 1/100 sanding stick, which is pretty aggressive. I mean, it's probably not 100 now because I've used the crap out of it, but I'm just going to completely take off all of that detail now and go straight down. That way I can just have a nice clean seam, no seam line, and then I can laminate this new piece right on it, right dead center. When you get pretty close, this is pretty aggressive, but it also will leave some fairly decent scratches in it. So as I get close, then I switch up, go down to the 180, and that'll kind of polish that. Yeah, looks nice. I can take that edge scriber and kind of clean up this edge again too, just on the corners. Perfect. Okay. Now we're going to take some of our thin cement. Make sure I'm putting this in the right spot. Yeah. So that's going to go just like this. Just going to take a dot, go right in the middle. Be able to move this. I'll take this. There we go. I just place that dead center right up against that, using that edge, that scribed line as a guide. I'll go once more around the edge of this. That will fully laminate that. Now, what this is, I mean, it looks like the thickness is going to be good, but I could, if I wanted to, just kind of sand this down once it's dry, just to take a little bit off of that thickness. But I actually think that looks pretty good, considering what was there, with this huge seam going down the middle of it. Now it just looks like a nice, clean. Now we're going to do the other one. Just looks like a nice, clean, raised detail now, instead of trying to sand those two different heights, you know, and make it look nice. It's kind of hard to do that. Sometimes it's just easier to take it off and redo it with your own. All right, now that I got that seam completely cleaned up, looks nice. And once I hit this with primer too, you know, there'll be some, well, I'm just gonna do the seam first. Once I hit it with primer, hopefully, I mean, it looks like I've cleaned it all up. I don't think I'm going to need to go back and touch any of these seams. I'm pretty lucky so far with the seams on this. Okay, place that down again using that scribed groove, edge scribe there as a guide. And just go around this and fully laminate it. What's up? Hey, Ken. How's the baby? What's up? Manny, how you doing? McDio, Mr. Manny, I believe, in the house. So I'm just fixing some raised details on these little leg portions here there's a seam going down the middle, so it made it, it just was easier just to take it off, cut some new pieces out of a piece of plastic strip, and let those dry. Okay. Take my pencil cover, protect that. All right. So what I just finished was basically these three steps. I've got some pieces here. That's all this section here. Now we're moving down to the lower foot, the lower leg, and the feet. Fortunately, these assemble in a way that I can get away with painting the entire leg portion and then painting the feet and then attaching that stuff later without having to do any masking, really. So I've got this portion done. I've got a little bit, a couple more pieces that have to kind of stack as these legs go together. But what I'm going to do now is start cutting these out. And most of the runners are pretty much done. I've only got a few runners left. And this is the top of that leg portion where the intakes are. And that's where this, that little kind of pivot point's going to go right at the top of the leg. So it kind of gives an extra little bit of posability. It's kind of nice. Jason D, what's up? Seam free, way to be. Yeah, thanks for coming back and tuning in, everybody. Because like I said, last week I was down with COVID, and it really kicked my ass. I've had it before, and figured I was pretty much done with it. But I went to work on Friday, one of the Fridays a couple weeks ago, and it was just like, gosh, I just feel horrible. And so I thought I better test, and sure shit, send me home for 5 days. But as it turned out, I needed an additional day to recover because I was having trouble sleeping. It was pretty bad. All right, C7. So there's quite a few polycaps in this this kit too. The polycaps don't bug me so much because in this case, I guess in some of the Gundam kits it can be kind of annoying, but they've used them pretty well, particularly with the Rau, the Queadluun Rau kit. Those polycaps were really done very well. And so far, these have been pretty well, are done pretty well too. So, all right. I guess it's saying to cut them both out. Yeah, C6, 5, and 6. Okay, so we're just going to do them both. There's going to be a pretty nasty seam down the front of these legs too, so it's going to be quite a bit. I may have to do what I just did earlier with these two little joint pieces, as there might be some raised details that I'm going to have to either reproduce or sand around. I'm going to try not to, but we'll see. All right, bunch of these PC7 polycaps. I mean, most of these that are used are all the same one. We've used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've used 13 of these. This one particular polycap, and there's 2 per leg so far. With Art B, what's up, dude? Art by Ty. How you doing, Ty? Is that your name, Ty? Good to meet you. Don't know if I've seen you before. Tuning in from Twitch. Appreciate it. So 2 per, so I'm going to cut out, I might as well just cut out all 4. That's me. Nice. Good to have you. Welcome in. And one of the other cool parts about this kit too is it comes with this. I put it in this little baggie, and it didn't come with that, but this is a strap, actually, for a shoulder strap for the gun pod. It's kind of cool. All right, so I got 2 halves and 2 polycaps. There's not a whole lot going on between here, so I'm just going to start trimming and gluing these together. Try to get them. There has been a few little fit issues with this, like as far as like seams not lining up. Not too terribly bad. I will say I think the Queadluun Rau kit, which of course is this big monster, has come quite a long way from where these batteroid kits were. The fit was perfect in most cases, and they also went with a lot of different colored runners, which is something Hasegawa is just new at, really. Like, most of the kits are just kind of like this batteroid kit. They're all one color. They're all white or gray, maybe a few different color, a couple little one runner or something like that. This one actually has a blue, a single small little runner with one blue piece for the chest piece. You still have to mask off and paint half of that black, or put a decal on it, but for the most part, the rest of the kit's just all white like this. So that's typically how Hasegawa makes these, but it looks like they're starting to kind of they're not doing multiple color runners yet, but they're doing multiple colors as far as the whole kit. Like like the A runner in a Gundam kit might have 3 different colored plastics on it. Best mecha kit of all time. Nice. How you doing, Tetsujin? How you doing? Good to see you. But they haven't started doing like multiple colors on one runner, but they do multiple colors in a kit now, which is kind of nice. All right, so I'm just gonna start gluing some parts here. How's everybody doing? Got a lot of people in tonight. Looks like Brian's go-to. Go watch my stream tonight. It has worked. A lot of people are coming in, chiming in. All right. There's also a glass piece that's going to go in the front here. I'm not going to put that in right now because I'm going to have to take care of these seams first before we get there. I definitely don't want to have to work around a clear piece while I'm trying to fix a seam. But like I said, one thing I have noticed is that the pegs and holes are really, really tight. So test fitting them is okay, but it's like once they go together, they're really going to be hard to come apart. Another thing is a lot of these little panel lines are super shallow and super thin. Like I've been trying to clean them up using a 0.125, which is pretty small. It's a very small chisel. Be very careful not to damage the tip. If you get, you don't want to get a deep groove and twist because you'll snap it right out. I have broke one BMC chisel in my lifetime, and that was a 0.2. So obviously the thinner ones are a little more fragile than the more robust ones. But the panel lines, I almost have to go and do those first before I do any sanding, because if I just go straight to sanding at this point, I'll just end up removing those panel lines altogether. You won't even see them. So I figured that out pretty early on in this build, and then anytime I came across that, I was just scribing them first after I had, after the glue dried. I got a little bead there, just scribing the panel lines down, and then when I do my sanding, they're still there. They don't disappear on you. Hey, what's up, Santos? Roboto sent me here with love. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Santos. I appreciate that. That is a Mr., right? Or is it a different J? Am I mistaken? We've never met, I don't think. So if I'm wrong, please correct me. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm just kind of squeeze these together here, but I think what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to trim these pegs. They're so super tight. I'm just going to give them a little trim at an angle. That will help them go together a little bit easier. I won't need to take them apart after this, but I'm trying to minimize the amount of seam repair that I have to do. And by, some of these are just, by the time you get them together, gosh, these still, I think it's actually the polycaps that are fighting me a little bit. I'm just trying to get this close as I can get it without completely closing that gap, because once I put some glue in there, that's what I'm going to do. I'll put a little bit of glue in these holes. That will soften up this, and it'll help these pegs go in a little bit easier too. I also made a mistake of actually using too much glue on the row kit. I popped in a bunch of glue in the holes and thinking, oh yeah, more the better, right? But no. Yeah, that worked out good. That just softened them up, made them go together a lot easier. But it actually melted the plastic so much to the point where when it dried, I had sink marks on the outside, the actual surface that you see, because of the glue that was in those holes. So you got to be careful. Don't put too much in there. I'm just putting enough in to make these pegs going easier. All right, so then I got my seam together. Sometimes I tweak the spacing between the two halves, get a diagonal panel line. Wait, I'm gonna have to read that again. Give me 1 second here. Just trying to get a little bit more in this seam so when I press them together. There we go. Gosh, there's actually a gap there. No, it's not. It's fine. It was the pressure I was putting on the two pieces was actually making it warp. Okay, there we go. Then I got those together with a decent bead of plastic. So then once I sand that down, it'll look nice. All right, moving on to the other side here. Tejijin says, sometimes I tweak the spacing between the two halves to get the diagonal panel line to line up better. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, yeah, if you got a panel line that's not lining up, totally. Yeah, I could see. At one point, I even thought about cutting the pegs completely off, just because I was having an issue with two halves, two pieces just not lining up together at all. And I thought, well, maybe I would just cut the pegs off and just line them up by, doing it the hard way, I guess, but just lining them up by hand, eyeballing it, rather than using the pegs at all, because two pieces did not want to come together right. Because I know these molds or this kit, they're just changing up a few parts of it, but these batteroid kits have been around for a while, so they're not a lot of retooling going on there. All right. So we're almost got it here. I'm going to put a little bit in these holes, get this other half together. You cut them off too. You cut the pegs off too, yeah. And then you do what you got to do. You don't always have to put it together exactly the way it came out of the box. I mean, Hasegawa was pretty good. I know there's some manufacturers out there that could learn a thing or two from Bandai and Hasegawa, but typically, generally speaking, Hasegawa has some pretty good molds. They don't usually have issue. I'm just trying to make sure there's a little bit of a gap there, so when I go in, before I fully press this together, because I'm going to load up this seam with some glue. That way, when these two halves press together, I get a good little bead there. That's one way the easiest way anyway, to remove a seam without using any putty. Now, I don't use putty much anymore, especially the Tamiya putty, and here's why. Because when I built the 120 Gerwalk, the big Max Factory Gerwalk, I was using Tamiya putty to try to fill, because there was a lot of, it needed a lot of work. And some of the bigger parts, like the armor, the fast packs and stuff like that, all needed putty. Well, what my problem was, I couldn't figure out why my seam lines kept reappearing. And what I figured out, what I was, through people telling me too, but what I also discovered was Tamiya putty reactivates with lacquer-based paint. So I was using lacquer-based primer and stuff on the Tamiya putty, and what it was doing was reactivating the putty, and then my seam lines would appear. I could sand it, it would look great, but as soon as I hit it with another shot of primer, all of a sudden my seam lines showed up again. So for a lot of that big stuff, I ended up using CA glue, or like this, putting two pieces together, squeezing it, getting a nice little bead there. You can take out a seam line without even having to add any kind of filler, any kind of leveling, or like Surfacer 500 or anything like that. Just sanding the plastic alone. that's the goal. Okay. So I do have to, I've got a little bit, that little stabilizer wing. I have to glue it on both legs, but I'm going to forgo that part only because I want to address this seam first when this is dry. I don't want that wing being in the way of trying to sand this down, because technically this is where the landing gear would open up for the rear landing gears, the main landing gear. So there is a little bit of a diagonal panel line going across. There's also a couple of straight across, and those where the doors would open for the landing gear. And then there's also some other just general detail lines. So I don't want anything in the way of that. So I'm just going to let that sit for a minute. And we'll look at the next step here, rather than put those, because there's also a couple of lights that have to install in the rear here. I'm not going to put those in yet either. Those are little things I can do later on. Right now, I'm just trying to get the kit assembled so I can kind of start posing it and see what I'm going to have to do, if I'm going to have to modify something to get the pose that I want for this scene. In the meantime, I got two of these little F5s I got to cut off, and this is just a thin little piece. It goes in the middle of that leg joint when you assemble all these pieces together. There's a lot of, they like to use these long pegs that kind of go through several parts and then into a polycap. It's one thing I noticed with this. This actually is supposed to be a line back there. I got to be careful when I sand this, because there's actually supposed to be an actual panel line. It's more like, it's not a groove. It's just like two raised surfaces side by side. So one of them's a little bit higher than the other. So I don't want to sand that too deep, otherwise I'll just completely lose that little bit of a lip on it. So I'm going to be careful when I sand that. Yeah, gosh, real careful. Didn't take much. There we go. Let me put these little nubs on like all four sides of this damn thing. Gosh. I may have to end up taking one of my wider chisels and recreating that. It's okay here on this side, but this one almost disappeared completely by sanding it. So I may have to take a chisel and just kind of scribe a little bit of that plastic away to bring back that those two levels of that line there, that separation. Yeah, this side's doing the same. Must just be this piece, because they're identical runners, and like one side is not quite maybe as like a pronounced ridge as the other side. So when I sand it down, it's just basically completely scrubbing that surface detail away. And this side should be fine, which it is. That's what the other side did. All right. Okay. There's also an orientation with these parts too. There's a way that they go together. All right. So while these are drying, I'm going to get rid of some of these bigger pieces of plastic here. All right, so there is an orientation to this, up or down, which looks like this is upside. This flat peg is supposed to go on top. All right, so this, I think these are dry enough. Now I'm going to go ahead and just give them a quick little sand to take off any little lip that might be on those edges of those detail that I glued on here. All right. So this one, there is a left and a right to these, so I got to be careful I don't get them mixed up here. All right. So this goes through. Oh geez, I'm gonna start at the bottom here. So this goes through this. Yeah, this is something else. This goes through this hole, just like that. Then this goes on there. Okay, so now you can kind of see how that goes together now. That little wedge piece is right in the middle. I am going to have to try to fix that scribe on that one side. Looks like I got the other two surfaces are fine. It's just that one edge on this side must not have as large a. I guess that just glues together that way. There's no, and this is, I don't think it's supposed to swivel, because it doesn't say, they're pretty good about saying don't glue this if it's a piece that's supposed to move. But this doesn't look like it. I'm pretty sure that's a solid piece. There's a panel line there that should be there, but it doesn't say to leave it unglued. To the best of my knowledge, none of the other kits have ever swiveled in that point. So I'm going to take this apart real quick just so I can do what I was talking about doing, taking a chisel here and trying to clean up that. So I'm going to use my 3.5 millimeter, which is from the USA Gundam store. These are, oops, I almost lost my. These are the, I can't remember the name of these, the Model Master or what? I only bought the two sizes that I couldn't get in the BMCs, and so far I've been pretty happy with them. They're sharp, they work real well. I may have to get out the heavy-duty magnifiers though. Do you have a solution for the wing missiles? Are you including them? I am trying to include them, yes. Going back, I will talk about this for you since you asked. Let me put that up on screen here. Oh, there's more. Holy crap, where'd I go? There we go. All right, so Tetsujan's asked me if I've got a solution for the wing missiles. I may be able to, well, who was it that said, gosh, now I forgot. It was Julius was saying that he might have some 100 pods that may work. That would be smaller and allow for a little more room here. The biggest challenge is the shoulders, because when I have the wings out, I don't have any mobility with the shoulders. They just right up against it. So I may consider trying to reposition the angle of this peg. I don't know if that's going to be possible. Fortunately, once I pose this, it's not going to move, but if I can angle it so I can bring these shoulders forward a little bit, it might allow me with a little more room behind, a little more spacing that I can. This is not glued, that's why it's coming apart, because I'm screwing around with it. But that'll give me a little bit more movement, as far as like posability when I go to, when I put the gun pod in his hands and try to figure that part out. The other thing is just because these wings are shorter than they would be normally on a Valkyrie. That's because the proportions they try to do with these batteroid kits. I'm limited on the amount of space I have on the wings. So I'm trying to figure out, exactly where to mount them at. Also the shoulders. Those are just a few things that I've got to solve. But for the meantime, I'm going to just keep assembling this so I can put it together and see exactly what needs to be changed, and then, of course, take it apart and try to fix that stuff. Those are going to be really the biggest challenge of it all. So what I'm doing here is this side, one side of these doesn't have a real distinct line. Once I sanded the nub off, it kind of left nothing. There should be a line going across the side of this. So I'm going to bring out the big 4x magnifiers here, because these, I got to get up close and personal. All right. So you can take that back off. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm just going to take my blade so I can kind of give myself a reference line as to where there we go. All I did was just kind of scratch into the surface just a little bit so I can see exactly where I need to. These are super sharp. You gotta be very careful. I did puncture my thumb one time while using these. When I first got them, I was doing that big resin tomahawk, and I ended up slipping off and going into my thumb. Found out real quick just how sharp these chisels are. So I was using that as a reference line, and then I'm just taking off just a little bit to make this look like the other side. I'm just doing this by hand. I'm not using any scriber tape or anything. I'm just very light pressure so I can control it. Get too aggressive, then it starts walking. There we go. Now at least I have a distinct groove there. So when I do panel line this, you'll be able to see it. That's what I want. This is just supposed to be slightly lower than that other surface. Okay, good. I'm going to do it on the other side. Sorry to say, 1/100 Valkyrie kits, I do not have them with missile pods. Oh, well. Sent you a message on IG. Oh, that's fine. Thanks for checking, Julius. I appreciate it. I'll look around. I'll see. That might be an option. This is still early in the project, so we're just solving some of the early challenges. If I was just building the kit to build the kit and put it on a shelf, it wouldn't be. But because I'm trying to recreate a scene, it's going to take a little bit of ingenuity in some cases to get the parts, get everything to pose the way I like it. I never even really thought about the wings being an issue until I opened the weapon setup and I started assembling those little pods. The reason because these caps, these just kind of sit in here, and the cap goes on. And I need to paint those first. That's why I didn't put the front of them on. I didn't need to. I just wanted to really assemble the box of it so I could play around with the size and make sure, see if it would work. So it looks like it's going to take a little bit of modification, but like I said, the only other thing I can think of is maybe repositioning the shoulders, the pins of those shoulders, just so they clear the wings a little bit more. That way I can roll the arms up and do the pose I want, but also allow for the wings to open. It's like as soon as I move the shoulders out, then they just get in the way of the wings moving. That's the problem I was faced with. I am faced with. So I'm just doing the same thing I did with that other piece on the other side. Let's just take a little bit of that material off to give ourselves an actual panel line. Or raised a variance between those two surfaces. All right, that's good. All right, now I guess we can reassemble this. So, starting off here, then we've got this, which goes this way, and then we have this piece, which goes this way. I think, like I said, I think this is supposed to be completely glued together this way. What's up, Hasaki? How you doing, bud? Good evening to you. What's up? Hasaki Art. You guys check him out. If you guys haven't seen any of his work, oh my gosh. You're missing out. So, these don't move much anyway, so I really don't think they're intended to move. It doesn't look like the instructions say anything about not using glue on these parts to come together, because they're not really a tight fit either, so I'm going to have to use glue. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this back off so I can do just that. Actually, I can take this first, lay this on here. Yeah, it goes like that. And I'll just glue this down first. There'll be a little bit of masking required to paint this, because some of this is going to be done in white. Oh, and that's another thing I want to do, is I want to paint this in the anime, the cell shading paint scheme. So that's another thing I've got to try to figure out how to do, which I've never done before. So, yay! New stuff. Always good to see you. Oh, and George. Yeah, George is here. Probably doing some painting or something as he's listening. Might be doing some more primer work or something on the GN or the tank. All right. So now I've got some glue between all these pieces. I'm just going to give a little bit of a press, not too much. I don't want to squeeze too much out here. All right, and we can do that same with the other side. So this direction, this piece is directional. You got to make sure you get it right. So that's supposed to sit right there. Thanks for the canopy glue. Oh, you did. Awesome. You got it from Japan. Great. I'm so happy you found it. That stuff is great. I mean, it works great with fiber optics too. And I've probably used it more for fiber optics than I've used for actual canopies. But I did use it as well on the Super Jerry that I just finished, because those canopies were kind of small and there wasn't a lot of surface area to glue stuff down on. So it was nice to be able to use some of that canopy glue, and it dries clear. It's made for canopies, but it's really not aggressive at all. So you can, you don't have to worry about it. Like CA glue is so caustic in some cases. Like I found out the hard way trying to do it with fiber optics. I just ruined some fiber optics because I used CA glue on it, not knowing that it'll attack the fibers and make them very brittle. You can use it for STGM Sniper Visor. Perfect. That's probably an excellent way to try it out. It dries relatively quick. It dries probably quicker than Elmer's glue does, but it takes a little bit. It's not as quick as thin cement, but you can put something down and actually it'll start to set relatively quick, so you can move on and do something different. So all right, I got another shin piece here. This is part of the knee actually. So I'm going to take these off. Will it react to paint? No. No, it's very mild. It's just like I'm going to put that on screen. And we're talking about the canopy glue here, and he's asking, will it react to paint? Canopy glue. I'll bring it up on screen. It's this stuff right here. This is the tube. Yeah, all in Japanese. This is what's left of the packaging that it came in. I thought I had a better package, picture of that, but the model number is, I think I sent this earlier, but it's where was it? Oh, the CA-089 is the model number of it, and but no, it's very, very mild. It doesn't have any issues with paint as far as I can see. I used it, like I said, I used it on the Super Jerry canopy and without any issues. It just dries very, very nice and solid when it's finally set. It takes a little bit longer than like a regular thin cement, but I never had any issues with it at all. I think you're fine. And it's specifically made for clear parts in general. A little bit there. Just doing a fingernail test here on this nub, making sure I get all of it off. All right, so this goes on the front here. So we've got these pieces that we just assembled, and then there is a kind of a knee portion here that goes on the front. That fits really tightly too. Man, they really made these pegs very tight, almost too tight. I'm not so sure. Gosh, it's almost like you have to, because if that goes on like that, it doesn't allow you any room to Oh, there it is. It says it right here in the instructions to put this piece on after you put it in the leg, because this almost wraps around it actually wraps around. You can see there's no gap here to install that in the leg. So these have to go on separate. So thank God I didn't glue those on. says adhere after attaching. So when you're assembling the leg, for example, this kind of goes in this, right in this polycap, like that. And then you're supposed to take this piece and it glues on like that and seals off that whole joint. So yeah, so we're gonna have to wait on that. Oh, come apart. Wow, see, that's pretty tight. Everything's tight. That's good in some cases. All right, so I'm gonna wait on that. So what I can do is assemble the bottom foot portion, since I can't do much else with the legs. These are still drying, so I can't do any seam removal there. Microscale, microcrystal clear. I noticed that the canopy that makes Micromark, or the company that makes Micromark and Set, also does make canopy glue. Interesting. I have not seen that. So you're talking about Microsol, which I have some, but I just have never used it. I have Mark Set. Yeah, they're Microsol, and it has a Mark Setter and a. Let me see if I can find it. If this is what you're talking about. Let's see here. Not in that drawer. Nope, not in that one either. Where do I have it? I know I've got it somewhere. I've got a couple bottles of it somewhere. No, not there either. Huh. Oh, well, doesn't matter. I know I've got a couple bottles of it. I got it somewhere, but doesn't matter. I can't find it. It's supposed to be the same thing as the Japanese glue. Well, that's good. Yeah, that would be. It's probably easier to find too then, because I know Microsol and stuff, they sell that like at Burbank House of Hobbies in California. They have it. Maybe they've got the same thing. Maybe they got that glue as well. Interesting to see. Like I said, I like it because on the occasion I use fiber optics, I know that I can use that glue and it's going to dry clear and it's going to set nicely. And because I was using Elmer's glue, which again is fine, but it just takes forever to set. It just dries so damn slowly. All right, so for the feet, we need F28 times 2. We're doing 2 of these. These are all the same. So I'm going to go ahead and bring these runners down again. I'm just going to clip these off. And all this stuff is going to be painted. 25, yep. Eventually be painted. But for now, we're almost done with this runner. Yeah, those are the couple little lights. These little round circles, that's for the arms and that's for the back of the leg. This is an extra thruster. The back of the backpack has 3 thrusters, but obviously the runner has 2 on each one. So you use 2 on one and 1 on a second on the other runner. Other than that, it's used up. Not much left. So we're just going to clip these out, see if we can't assemble this real quick before we finish. Good night. Yeah, you're blowing me up. Cool, I see you just sent me a message. I'll check that out when we're done tonight after the live stream. I'm all about having the right tool for the job and the right product sometimes, especially if you can't find it. I know Sam from One Punch Sam from George's live stream, she just bought, she was able to find that chisel holder for sharpening your BMC chisels and stuff, because they're not going to stay sharp forever. But she found the same holder that I have. It looks like a little bit updated version of it, but essentially it's the same. And it's really, really a nice one. I think it's better than one of the other versions on the market because it has a round. The hole is round where the chisel goes in, and then the set screw, when you set it, it naturally just kind of levels that chisel out. So you don't have to worry so much about trying to get the chisel in the right position. It kind of automatically forces it into that true angle. Then all you have to really worry about is how far out, you move the chisel in and out of the tool so it changes the angle that you're sharpening. But I'm talking about leveling side to side. Seems to work out great. All right, so for these, there is another one. Gosh, PC7, same numbers. Number 7. We're using a bunch of those. If I cut 2 more of these, there's only 1 left, so hopefully we don't need any more. Two more polycaps. So this is supposed to go up. Interesting. It goes in, the pegs kind of come out through the sides. That's new. So I guess we're supposed to, oh, that didn't work. Check your DM. I saw it. I can't check my DM right now. I'll check in a minute. I'm doing my, I'm going to grab a small little paintbrush here and try to, nope, no, not small enough. Maybe a screwdriver. This polycap has to kind of fit into this foot. You almost have to spread it a little bit. It's a little bit tricky to get in there. Oh, come on now. Let me see. Let me try some pliers here. Got some little bit. There we go. Just like that. I could hear that sucker pop in there once I got it right. I think this makes it easier. I'll use these. There we go. Gosh, that was so much easier. That was a piece of cake. All right. Got a few little nubs to take care of. Oh, I thought you were talking to me. You're not talking to me. I'm just looking up and trying to keep, an eye on the chat, and saw it pop on screen. I thought you were talking to me. Oh, you're talking to George. Yeah. George is all about the right tools, too. He likes having all the cool stuff. All right, I'm just going to, let's see, I got a special one of these to kind of polish it up. I like using, more of the aggressive sanding sticks and then polishing on it, especially these surfaces, because I want them to be as clean as possible. There's not going to be much weathering on this because I'm going to be doing it in the, trying to do the anime cell shading, so there's not going to be a ton of weathering, if any. There's only, there's that one. I thought these had 3. I only see 2 on this one. What the hell? All right. What company made that Macross kit? Which, the batteroid or the Queadluun Rau? Both of the kits I'm doing now are Hasegawa. Queadluun Rau was the latest one that just came. Well, actually, the batteroid just came out after that, but technically it's not really much of a newer kit. It's more of a retool of an existing batteroid kit that they've had for years. And all they did was change up some of the colors for the Max variant of it. Oh, you thought it was Wave. No, these are 172 Hasegawa. Now I've got the 144 Bandai Queadluun Rau in my cabinet. That one's old hand-painted garbage, but it's significantly smaller. This thing is pretty massive. That's one of the things I was thinking when I started trying to, thinking about what I was going to do with these kits. I'm like, man, am I going to be able to recreate this? Because just by the sheer scale of it, it's going to be huge. All right. So we're getting down to it. Got a few more minutes. So this is for the bottom of the foot. I'm going to see this. They added a waist joint. Yeah, you're right. That I did notice. I forgot about that. Yeah, there's this twisty, cool little twisty waist joint. And just based on the runners that are left and some of the pieces that are left over, I wasn't sure if this was something new just for the Max batteroid. I'm not even sure why it needs it, but the Super Batteroid kit, mostly 2002. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what I was just saying. It's mostly the old kit. They just changed a couple of things to make it new, but essentially it's the same thing. All right, so we're going to glue these together. Got a little bit of a nub there I got to take care of. Both sides of that. God, that's almost warped. It must have changed shape when it cooled out of the mold. All right. Glue this. All right. Yeah, you almost have to hold that together just because of this pin, not this thruster piece, but this pin is just like not flat. It's almost warped. It's bowed so you can see a gap. Fortunately, it's in the bottom of the foot. Not going to matter much. I'm going to see it. So this goes in this way. I'm going to take this back apart, but I'm just kind of trying to see how this goes together. And then this is supposed to go. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Here we go. So that's kind of how the foot goes. This pin will then go into that polycap in the rear of the leg. That's a name I haven't seen since the forum days. So I do kind of like the way this goes together. The heel kind of, I'm not sure if that's going to need to be glued. I'm going to look at the instructions to make sure, but that might stay loose just so when this is on there, there's a little bit of flexibility. Maybe not. I think I might have to secure that. But anyway, that's kind of how the bottom of the leg goes together. So there's quite a, looks like I might have a decent amount of flexibility to pose that. The big question will be like the top of the legs. I'm pretty sure I can figure out what I need to. Should work out just fine. Anyway, folks, we're getting down to it. It's 7:30 my time here. It's getting late for you gentlemen and ladies. If anybody in the room, let's go back. We're going to go back out here. And we'll go back up to this here for sure. Let's see. I guess how many models I've finished since the forum days. Oh, no, I don't think I want to go there. You ever got that Zaku Kai done? Oh boy. You guys are talking backlogs or what do they call that when something sits on the shelf waiting for paint or something like that. You know? Anyway, folks, gentlemen, ladies, thank you so much for coming in tonight. A lot of people in the room, a lot of good questions, a lot of good talk, good chat, good camaraderie. Thanks so much for hanging out, waiting for me again one additional week. Like I said, I hate being sick, but man, this one kicked my butt, and so I had to take a week off. So again, over my shoulder, you can see some of those red parts there. That's the Queadluun Rau that's all sitting there. There's even some skewers on top of the spray booth. That's all waiting for primer. I didn't do a lot this week as well, even though after I recovered, I just kind of been mostly trying to figure out the shoulders of this thing. That's what I really been spending a lot of time on was just trying to figure out that part. I knew that the legs would be fine. I'd be able to pose that just fine. It's just I'm going to build the gun pod in the hand and then see the angles that I've got to deal with and see what kind of modifications I got to do. But anyway, with that being said, thanks again for everybody coming in. Be good humans, and we'll see you next week on Wednesdays again. This was a one-off this week because of Valentine's Day. So next week I'll be going back to my regular day and the same time, 6 o'clock Pacific, and we'll see you soon. So with that, everybody, here we go. Let's do the outro. Talk to you soon.